We have breaking news in the NHL. Carolina Hurricanes GM Don Waddell has resigned. What does this mean for the franchise and where might he end up next? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some breaking news in the NHL. Carolina Hurricanes general manager Don Waddell has resigned and stepped down from his position. Now, there was some speculation that I first seen break last night, actually, indicating that he actually might be looking to move on. His contract was set to expire, and there didn't seem to be any agreements in place for a contract extension. That he had actually talked to at least one other team that was mentioned here. Obviously, Elliotte Friedman and a few other top NHL insiders been on the story, but it only really came out last night or later yesterday. But this has been brewing for a while by the sounds of things. We know that Waddell spent the better part of a decade with the Canes organization. They've had a ton of success between Don Waddell and Rod Brind'Amour and their tenure there with the organization. Clearly, we know that Waddell reportedly has been not taking the biggest salary. And I've mentioned this before, and some fans want to give me pushback on it, but I'll say it again. The reputation from around league circles is that owner Tom Dundon is I wouldn't maybe not use the word cheap, but we'll say frugal. And it's believed that Waddell has been underpaid for some time. Now, I don't know, and I can't say with any authority or certainty that he had enough of that, and that's what drove him to leave. But we do know that, obviously, look at the hard time they've had getting contract extensions in place for Brind'Amour. And this isn't the first time that there was speculation that Waddell might move on. During the 10-year run, there's been at least one or maybe two other times where there was some talk that Waddell might actually be on the way out, and that he actually did have conversations with other teams around the time that his contract had to be renewed, but they've always worked it out, and he came back. And really at the end of season press conference when they announced Brind'Amour's extension and talked about the team at the end of the year media, you really didn't get the sense that Waddell was going to be gone from the team within like a week. He certainly sounded like a guy who had unfinished business there. So I don't know, but I'm going to suggest that this is probably not something that just happened out of the blue. It's probably been brewing for some time. Now, the team has put out a statement indicating that longtime assistant GM Eric Tulsky has become the interim general manager. I'm a little surprised in a way that they didn't just hire him. But again, interim general manager will afford them to pay him less money. And I'm not going to make this all about money, but it just, unfortunately, they need to do a search here. I do think they need to be careful because Tulsky's been a widely sought after guy. There's been a number of teams with GM openings that he's interviewed for, and he's come close to landing those. He's been a finalist on 2 or 3 other jobs. I believe he was close in Pittsburgh before they hired Dubas. He was in the running in Chicago before they hired Davidson. So, at the end of the day, there was a number of teams that I wanted to speak to him. He got into hockey first through analytics, and then has just built his resume from there, gaining a more prominent role with the Hurricanes, and kind of, like I said, widely respected as one of the smartest AGMs around the league, and an up-and-comer in the world of executives in hockey. So certainly it's expected at some point he's going to be a GM, and I'd suspect if for any reason they go in another direction, they're going to be at high risk to lose him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he up and leaves as well. But at the same time, like I said, I don't know, the exact rationale and thinking process around making him interim GM. But at the same time, you could always agree that it's never a bad idea to talk to a variety of people and bring in other people. At the very least, you're going to gather more information and you're going to maybe learn some things that you find valuable. And at the same time, some leaders and bosses in the world don't think should be a case of people just given jobs. They have to make it known that they earned it. So obviously, not only did his internal work earn him the right to be in the conversation, but they got to make sure that there isn't a stronger candidate outside of the organization as well. So there are some business people that have that belief, and it sounds like that's obviously how Tom Dundon feels. So Tulsky, it's a great news. I know a lot of people in the analytics world are certainly cheering and like to see this because of his background. And I have no doubt he's been a big part of the management team already. that he'll be a good candidate to get the full-time role and do great things. They're in good hands that way. So it's also speculation that Justin Williams, who's been with the club as a advisor, he's also been doing some media stuff, but he's been a Canes advisor. I would suspect that he probably will step away from the media. Can't say that for sure, but it's reported that he could have a bigger role within the Canes organization as well. I don't know if he'll maybe grab an official AGM title or what have you. I don't know, but he is expected to take on more roles of responsibility. In the case of Don Waddell, he is a very well experienced man with a lot of different roles that he could be a good fit for. The belief was last night, I believe it was a combination of Friedman and LeBrun talking that they had heard that he had spoke with the Columbus Blue Jackets on their vacant general manager role. So clearly, Waddell, one of the more experienced guys there. We know they've had some other names thrown around, like Marc Bergevin, like Ken Holland. I'm pretty sure that there was enough rumors about Holland that I think that's been dispelled, because then clearly the Oilers are not going to let him talk to another team when they're in the midst of a playoff run, and they're still obviously going to be going for a while as they just started the conference final. In case of, it's funny, I do find it comical though that Waddell and Bergevin, after their battles of offer sheets there over the years between Montreal and Carolina, how they're now battling for the same job, and it'd be funny if Waddell won that one as well. But Bergevin is in the mix, so there's no guarantee that Waddell gets hired in Columbus, but he is considered a very strong contender with all his experience, and he very well might be the leading contender there. We'll have to wait and see, but there is some talk from others that there's a couple other teams that he's already either has or will be speaking to, and that includes the Buffalo Sabres and the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, it may not be for the role of GM, because those teams don't have a GM vacancy, but like I said, maybe it's more of a presidential role where he's like a president advisor or something along those lines, or he could also get involved in the business operations side. He does have a lot of personal business experience and could be very helpful and useful in other roles. So again, take a look at maybe the relationship there with Kevin Adams. Maybe he takes on a role with the Sabres. There could be more of a, maybe they bring in somebody to be more of a buffer between Adams and the ownership. I know Kevin Adams has a good relationship with the owners there, but certainly, another senior person to be advising might not hurt. In the case of the Chicago Blackhawks, certainly Davidson's a young up-and-coming GM as well. So, could they add to their front office? Like they're both teams that, to me, could very well benefit from the vast experience of Waddell, given where those teams are at with where they want to be, like in the progress of trying to get better. The fact that they have, executive teams that don't have a ton of experience and things like that, it makes sense. So could one of these three teams be a landing spot for him? They certainly could be. It doesn't mean there won't be others. Other teams, knowing that Waddell was available, might reach out and either, like I said, consider bringing him in. If you look at teams that don't have a team president, or teams that might want to see if he'd be interested in coming on as an advisor, or any of those things, it's quite possible. He's well respected. He's been around the game a long time. He's in a variety of roles and can be a very good help. Certainly the Hurricanes team have not won the Stanley Cup under his run there, but they've been one of the top regular season teams, and they've had a fair bit of playoff success, reaching the second and third round on multiple occasions. So you have to respect the work that's done and think that there's going to be tons of interest. So I guess we'll see. Let me know what you think the future holds for both Don Waddell personally. Is Eric Tulsky going to get the full-time permanent job in Carolina? Is there any other candidates that they would even really consider? To me, like I said, I think they've got their guy internally, and I think it would be a mistake to not give him the opportunity, considering he's already been a big part of what they've done, to let him build on that and take it to the next step. So let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.